All right, we are back. This is Creativity is the Cure. I am your host, Malcolm Moore, and today I have my good friend, Christian Anderson. How you doing, Christian?
I'm doing okay, Malcolm. I'm doing okay. How are you doing?
Pretty well. The way that Christian and I know each other is two things. I think we met when we were helping Tom Caltabiano with his Mr. Clown show, right?
Yeah, was that at Brock's backyard?
Brock's backyard, yeah. You guys are all my favorite puppeteers. So we met each other there. And then eventually I did my own show, Mr. Malcolm's Music Factory, and you played Sandawanda.
Yeah, I built Sandawanda too.
Yes, and you built, the basilic lizard. Mm-hmm. You did a great job, and one of my best memories is I don't have any experience like you performing. That was like the first time I'd done that. But as soon as I had my lines down, I was so nervous. As soon as I had my lines down, you did something and you realized it made me laugh. And then every show... until we were done, you would do that thing.
What did I do?
Like once you knew that I can't remember what it was, like but you made Sandawana do. Yeah, it was a funny thing, and
like a double take or triple
I was like,
something?
I hope Christian doesn't make me mess up that. But it was so fun, and what a great cast we had. John Biev and Victor and
Nee. We had a guest spot.
Nee, I brought this up before. She learned the whole thing in 24 hours. Mm-hmm. Remember, we came to your house and we were like, go.
Yeah.
She's really amazing.
Yeah, she killed it.
Yeah, and then you helped on the new Mr. Clown show that's on PBS, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I built some puppets and I puppeteered.
I think it's only local right now, but pretty soon, if people have the PBS app, everyone will be able to watch it.
All over the world.
I know that you are a puppeteer.
I am.
A puppet builder.
I am.
And you've done quite a bit of acting too, right?
I have, yeah.
You did a little bit on Broadway.
I did.
And is that what led you to being a puppeteer?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you explain that a little bit? Your journey toward being a puppeteer and puppet builder?
When I was a kid, I was obsessed with, Sesame Street, and there was a show called Villa Alegre. Which was, I guess is that The Village? But it was this like half English speaking, half Spanish speaking show, and they had like this guy as I don't know if it was a guy in a costume or anyway, they had puppets on that show, The Magic Garden. Remember that one?
So you grew up East Coast?
Yeah, East Coast. Yeah, maybe that's was a regional
I
thing.
haven't heard of this show. It sounds cool. What was it on?
PBS.
Okay.
I think. Yeah.
And
long time
what
ago.
type of puppets?
Well, so the Magic Garden had these little hand puppets. There was a bird called Flapper, I think, and a squirrel. I don't know what he was called. I just loved puppets.
Right.
I was obsessed, and I wondered how it worked, what made them happen. Uh-oh, here comes trouble.
I need more eggs.
Coco, you really gotta...
I need more eggs.
Oh, my gosh. So here's my daughter, Coco. Don't go back there, please. Do not go back there, please.
Hello.
Oh, boy.
But I need more eggs.
Okay, we'll make it fast. And then skedaddle you. Coco is my soon-to-be 6-year-old daughter, and she's...
I'm not 6.
Soon to be. She's 8. All right, and she's trying to play older.
All right, you've got enough eggs for the next 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So you were watching this show, and you loved puppets.
I was watching all these shows. Yeah, that and all the Sid and Marty Krofft stuff, HR Puppet stuff, all that. I just was fascinated, slightly terrified, but fascinated with puppets. And is there a guy in there? Is there a guy under there?
Yeah, some of those early 70s shows were also a little spooky, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah.
And like some of the weird little numbers, maybe I'm remembering this incorrectly, but there was a bit where they did the, wouldn't you like to ride, which I guess is the Fifth Dimension. And I think there was this guy in this balloon, and a bird goes flying by and into the balloon, and he's like, no! And it was so scary. I was terrified, but I loved it. And how did they get the guy in the basket of the balloon? And so I just followed puppet stuff all the time. If there was a puppet on it and I was flipping the channels, I'd watch it.
Like Captain Kangaroo, the moose
all
and
that
the
stuff.
bunny, right?
Yes, the ping pong balls coming down. Yeah, I love that stuff.
And the bunny that had the glasses and played classical piano.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, just like that weird, like with the 2 fingers in the head kind of puppet, right?
And you brought something up sometimes with the hand puppets, even Mr. Rogers with Henrietta. The mouth didn't even move, but he was so good that it just worked.
Yeah. I love those puppets too. They were creepy. Like, what was the old lady?
Oh, the librarian. She was terrifying.
Yeah, she was terrifying, but she was so sweet.
A lot of great stuff.
Oh, a lot of great stuff. So I was just fascinated. My mom and my dad were musical theater people. They weren't really together for very long. So I grew up with my mom in Connecticut, and she would do a lot of community theater.
Oh.
And I would get stuck into their shows, like they did Fiddler on the Roof.
Both actors?
No, my mom was more a director. My
Okay.
dad was an actor. And so my mom would be like, oh, we need kids for this. Let's stick the kids in. So I was, a refugee in Fiddler on the Roof, or she would also do kids productions. So I was the kids in Mary Poppins,
Yeah.
So
you just grew up on the stage. And it
Yeah,
was
pretty much,
Pretty
yeah.
comfortable?
very, 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 very comfortable. It was just like, if my dad worked at a garage, I'd be, playing with tools and fixing cars. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so that's kind of just what happened. I sort of just fell into it. My mom...
And I'm sorry, what city was this?
Well, I lived in southern Connecticut, so it was like Clinton, Connecticut, Madison, Connecticut.
Yeah.
And just all around that little seaboard area. My mom moved to New Hampshire with my brother, and I was around 20 or so. Bye again.
I want to say bye.
Okay, so...
And also, the Coco is a monster, but a squishy gum monster, and I don't know why. Bye-bye.
All right, bye. Love you. Oh, my gosh. She moved to New Hampshire, got a job at a regional theater up there, and I didn't know what I was going to do in my early 20s, and I think I don't know, was it before? Yeah. So I moved up there with them and got involved in this, theater and just did all the shows. I auditioned just like everybody else, and I did shows that my mom didn't direct, but I did a lot of shows that my mom did direct, and she would put me in like some of the roles, and
Right.
I kind of lost my
Was it easy for you to learn the lines when you were younger?
Oh, so easy. Yeah, and music, I just understood music and stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're in New Hampshire, and my mom is doing these shows, and I'm in some of these shows. Other people are doing these shows at this theater. They get like, it's like an equity kind of, I don't know, waiver theater or something. I know they'd have people from New York come up and who had done some shows and join the cast and of the locals and stuff.
Right.
So that was cool. Always interested in puppets. I think the first thing I did there was a parade in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, which was where this theater was. Cool town. And my mom was like, "Hey, do this puppet show for kids." And I wasn't necessarily a puppeteer at that
She
point.
was just like, do the puppet show.
Yeah, she entertained kids, so I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll do the puppet show." And the drying is done.
And our time is up.
All right, there you go. So we would do. I did the puppet show, and that was really fun. And then I just was always interested in puppets. Always had like my eye, like, oh, what's going on there? Or like if there were Sesame Street, like or Best of Ernie and Bert, I would buy those videos, and for some reason I just have them. So I just understood it. So musical theater, I just kind of headed out in that direction. And then did the regional theater. I tried to go to college. That didn't really work out. Moved to Seattle to be in a band. That didn't really work out. Moved back to New Hampshire, then down to Connecticut where my grandparents were, and would go and find a job. I found a job at a restaurant, moved to New York City, moved in with my father, who I kind of wasn't, we didn't really have a relationship at the time, but I slept on his couch for a few months. And then I got my own place. And eventually... he, who was an actor, was working like off Broadway in like this experimental theater. And I got into one of these shows, the one show directed by this guy named Alex Harrington. It was, I think that was his name. And it was just like this Greek thing, and it just went really well. And then he had another friend who was a musician, a piano, a voice teacher. He was a musical director of also off stuff, Broadway stuff, but also, some more legit stuff. But he was working on this thing that was just slightly off Broadway that was going to this theater called the Judith Anderson Theater. Now, my mom's name is Judith, and my father's last name is Anderson.
So it's good luck.
What? Yeah, I guess she was a big old Broadway actress back in the day.
Yeah.
And so this show was called, it wasn't a very great show. It was fun. I had a good time doing it, but I got a job in it as an understudy of the role of Joe, I guess was his name. And the actor, within a week, the actor who played the role of Joe got into a fight with our director, I believe, whose name was Colette. Colette Black. My daughter's name is Colette.
The universe is
Wow.
conspiring.
Yeah. And so I got the role of Joe. And it was fun. We were off Broadway. And at that time, somebody said, "Hey, Christian, had you ever seen Rent?" No, I didn't have money for that kind of thing. I was a graveyard manager at the Empire Diner You know, I saw a whole bunch of crazy characters. That was fun. And I would go and sleep in the office mostly, but I had a good time. Gave all the workers my passwords and stuff. Anyway, but they're very trustworthy. So somebody said, hey, had you seen the show Rent? I was like, no, like you might be perfect for it. I think they might be holding auditions for a tour or something. So I was like, all right, well, I'll check it out. And I started noticing the posters. And I had done a production of like Jesus Christ Superstar at that regional theater in New Hampshire I was talking about, and the Rocky Horror Show. And that was the kind of thing I really liked, you know, like kind of rock shows, I guess. You know, Steven Schwartz I liked as well. But I was wanting something like that, like, that would be my calling. I guess I kind of thought I had kind of a rock voice. There is a little bit of I used to smoke cigarettes and other things. And so there's a little grit in my voice. You can hear it now.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I would see the posters for Rent and, you know, could never afford it. Walk by the theater and, oh, that's cool. And I didn't have an agent or anything like that. But then I heard that there was an open call and there was a girl I was dating in this Take It Easy show. I had to work the night of, I had to work overnight until 8 a.m. at the diner. And so she was like, well, let's go audition. So she went and stood in line. She got there at like 3, 4, 5 in the morning. I got done at work at 8. Maybe she got there a little later. I don't know. But I showed up at Cooper Square after having been up all night working at this diner, and the line.
Just for people who don't know, just guesstimate how many people maybe were waiting.
Oh my gosh, hundreds.
Oh my God.
I don't know, maybe 1,000 people. Because the line, the door was on this street, which I don't know what street this was, but it went all the way around the block. And we were like on the opposite side of the block, opposite that door. And then that line kept going and going and going. And I remember seeing Anthony Rapp, who was the original Mark, walking around going, wow, this is insane. Because the Rent was this phenomenon at the time. We waited in line for 7.5 hours.
Good God.
And
you were tired
all night. Oh yeah. But then also like, well, I'm nervous. And I'd been working with my friend Bill, who hooked me up who kind of got me involved auditioning for that Take It Easy show. And we would take a couple of voice lessons from him. And we kind of leaned into the rock stuff. So I was going to sing Oh Darlin' by the Beatles. So we finally get to the door. Like it's like 4 or 5 in the afternoon, and they're getting ready to like, all right, we got to shut this down. Maybe we'll do another, review of this. We go in. My girlfriend Juliana, she got typed out immediately. They're like, sorry, you don't look like you could be anything in the show. Later,
I didn't even get to try.
7.5 hours, and she's like, oh my God. Well, at least we were hanging out together and whatever. We talking to people and having a good time. I go in and I sang. They're like, all right, well, what do you got? Because I kind of dressed like the Anthony Rapp character, right, Mark? Right. I still hadn't seen the show. I had these round glasses on. I had like a gas station kind of shirt, button down short sleeve shirt with like a long sleeve T-shirt underneath it with stripes or something. I don't know. And I walked into this room with this guy, and I was like, hey, I've been up all night working at the diner, so just give me a break. Oh my God. And I sang the crap out of it.
Yeah.
It just came out so great. And he...
Like a cappella?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I was so nervous.
Yeah.
And I could sing these notes back then, and then some. And I can't really do that now. He was sitting there and he's like, all right, let's see what this kid... And then it was like those commercials with and I'm really loud too. The commercials with like the Bose stereo and they're sitting in the chair and all the sound. It was kind of like that. And his eyes just widened and he stood up and he went, you got to go into the next round.
Whoa.
So I did it again for somebody else.
Level 1.
I guess I think I did it right there for somebody else. Or maybe I didn't. Maybe they were just like, okay, what's your name? What's your number? And they had to set up another time.
Wow.
So then they take my information. Yeah. And I go and I have to sing for the big boss, Mr. Bernie Telsey. They were the casting director. And he was the guy who cast it and everything. Sang for him. And he was like, whoa, that was amazing. Take this music for Halloween. Which is a kind of a tricky song in the show. And I don't read music. Right. And my friend Bill, who I'm working with on my voice and the songs and stuff, neither of us have seen the show. The soundtrack hasn't come out yet. And he reads music, but he's kind of a little more old-fashioned. He's not like, he doesn't have the... That song is just a little tricky, It's I don't know how you would describe it, but... He was like, I think this is but it was kind of jerky. We didn't know. We couldn't really hear it. So I went in there to sing for Bernie again. Yeah. And instead of like the bows, whoa, it was like, what his face, I watched it melt. Like, it was so bad. It was like, yeah, right. This guy's going to kill it. My job's so easy. And I blew it.
Wow.
Blew it big time. Horrible. Could see. I was just like, and this happens to me sometimes in life. Like, oh yeah, I'm going to do something, audition for something. I do a great first audition. I get a call back, maybe a great second call back. And then the second or third time, I just blow it. You know what I mean?
But they say that some amazing performers are just not good at auditions.
Yeah.
So it doesn't always say the reality.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So I left there going, well, back to the diner. And I tried to get an agent in between that time. But that didn't work out. And I remember I was like a month or so later, and I walked from that Take It Easy show that I was still in.
Yeah.
And I walked all the way down past this agent apartment building I had auditioned for. Nothing happened. And then I walked down to the diner just thinking, well, there's that agent. And I guess they're already rehearsing that show Rent. And it's like a Thursday night, I get to the diner and I check my pager.
Yeah.
And there's a page from, it's a message from Bernie Tilsey. Hey, Christian, give me a call. I'm at the office. So I'm like, all right, it's like 11:45. I call him. Hey, Christian, how you doing? What are you doing on Saturday? Nothing. We're having a big producer's call. I'm going to give you one more chance. You know, your first audition wasn't very good, right? Or something to that effect. I was like, yeah, I know. He was cool and honest with me.
Yeah.
And you haven't seen the show? I'm like, no. He's like, all right, tomorrow night, you're going to go in standing room only and see the show.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, great. Because I guess I was in the running for understudies or whatever.
Yeah.
There was such a formula with the show that
you
wasn't
finally get to see the
inventing
context.
anything. Yeah. Exactly. So I snuck in a tape recorder.
Yeah, I was hoping you were going to say that.
I totally did.
Yeah.
And I recorded all the Roger Mark stuff that I had to, Gloria I had to learn. I had to do Halloween, and I just listened to it that whole night.
Awesome.
The next day I did it, and then they called me back again, and they said, this time there's going to be 60 Minutes is going to be there, and they're going to do an interview. Are you in the union? I was nothing at this point. And they said, well, they're going to interview you, like we're doing kind of like a rising star kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so they interviewed me and the guy who became Angel, and they published that, not published, but what do you call it? They aired it like a year later, maybe 9 months later, and it followed sort of the audition process. So you could see me singing "Glory" and also working at the diner. Here's water, here's ketchup. Anyway, so I did that. Got into the musical theater, got to know the producers there, and they kind of referred to me as their secret weapon, I guess is what they called it. So I did Rent for 3 years. I played Gordon and others. Then I took over as Mark. Then I went to Broadway, made my Broadway debut where Anthony Rapp, we were in Chicago when I was Mark, and he wanted to finish up his time in Rent in Chicago, where he's from.
Right.
So
how many shows did you have to do a week?
8 shows a week.
Wow. I can't imagine.
That was in my 20s. I was 27, 28, 26.
Honed your skills, though.
Oh, for sure. 3 years doing that. And then, so I did Mark, and then Broadway, then back to the tour. Then I was like, hey, our Roger was leaving. I would like to do Roger because I used to go on for both. And they're like, all right, great.
Yeah.
So I got to be Roger. This guy, Trey, took over Mark.
Amazing.
Then they announced that Daphne Rubin Vega, the original Mimi, was going to join us in San Francisco and help close out the show. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, that's going to be cool. And they're like, yep, but we're bringing in another Roger. So you want to be Gordon again? So I was engaged at this time to this woman and who was in the show. And so I was like, okay, I was miserable. I hated it. And made that pretty obvious. And then that show ended. And then I auditioned. A friend who was in that company with us passed away. And so I called the producer to let him know because I didn't know if he knew. And he was like, oh, that's horrible. Then we got talking about other stuff eventually. And he was like, what are you doing with your life? And I'm like, oh, nothing. He's like, you might be right would you want to audition for the Full Monty? So they were doing, it was around 2011. They're doing a tour of the Full Monty.
What year was this?
This is 2002, maybe.
Yeah.
Because they opened in 2000, 2001. Then 9/11 happened and the show closed on Broadway.
That's funny. I recently interviewed a friend of mine, Chris Demontopoulos, and he was.
Oh, really? Yeah, he was
the
original. I don't know him, but he
told a great story about it too. That was a pretty wild show, right?
Oh, it was a crazy show. Yeah, it was so much fun.
That's how he met his wife.
Really? Yeah. Was she in the show?
Well, they met outside, in the subway terminal, but he invited her to the show, and that kind of won her over.
Oh. Oh. Yeah, I didn't win any ladies over in that show.
There's still time.
No, I'm not in that show anymore.
Oh, okay.
I have dreams. I'm not as skinny as I was back then. I have dreams that I have to go strip and sing all those songs. And I'm like, scary actor dreams.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. You know him because he does the voice of Mickey Mouse and stuff, right?
He's astounding.
He's hilarious.
amazing.
Robin
Every time
Williams.
I watch something, that's the first thing I ever saw him play Robin Williams.
He's
and
great.
I was a huge fan. And then every time my wife and I watch like Family Guy or American Dad,
You hear his voice?
yeah. He's in everything. He's
hilarious.
really good. And then he was on Three Stooges as Mo.
Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Still known as the Silicon Valley guy, though.
Oh, right. Which I gotta watch that show. I haven't really watched. I've seen a few episodes.
Yeah, he's a pretty interesting character.
Well, I'm just aware of him because I had done the show,
Yeah.
and I got cast in the role of Jerry. That was a cool story too because I auditioned. Audition was great. The producer called me up, Kevin McCullum. He's like, "Oh, that was awesome. Are you around? Are you free in the next couple of weeks? Because Jack O'Brien, the director, and Jerry Mitchell, the choreographer, are in London putting up the London production with, I believe, Christine Metopoulos and Patrick Wilson and all those guys.
Wow.
And would you be able to, do you have a passport? Would you be able to fly out to London to audition in between, they're on their break? I'm like, hell yeah. I had my passport, all that stuff. And a couple of weeks later, found myself in London with the guy who they wanted for Dave. And I auditioned. In front of Jerry and Jack.
Yeah. And how did it go?
Well, at the end, and this never happens, they're like, well, we whisper to each other and they go, you got the job. They gave us the job right then and there.
So cool.
It was amazing. So we went out and we got drunk. And then we walked by Rada going, we got jobs in the zone. So dumb. Then I almost didn't. Then I almost missed my flight because I slept late. Anyway, so I did that for a year and a half, and that was awesome. And then I was talking to Kevin. I had to go to rehearsals for. I was horrible at the dance part, but that was okay. We weren't supposed to be dancers,
Yeah.
And eventually I got it. But me and this guy Dave had to go and have like a week of rehearsal in New York with this guy Dennis, who was like Jerry's assistant or dance captain of the show. And while we were there, we had lunch with Kevin, and Kevin was talking about the show he was working on called Avenue Q. And I was like, oh, and he's like, yeah, it's like Sesame Street for adults, and it's downtown. It's a puppeteers, like Muppet. And I'm like, I'm obsessed with puppets.
And this is back in New York.
Yeah, this is before it opened, so like this is 2002, right?
Yeah. Great show. I did see it.
Avenue Q.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's before it went to Broadway. Before it was off Broadway. No, they were doing it off Broadway, I guess. I don't know.
Very radical at that time.
Oh, yeah. And they're like, well, keep your eyes on it. I'm like, oh, I absolutely will keep my eyes open. And I was in the show with a guy named Leo Denault. And Leo was also a puppet guy. He loved puppets. And he had this puppet named Fab that he would bring with him. And he was really great with Fab. And so it just kind of re-sparked my interest, but more it was less in the background. And then it was more forefront and going, wow, this could be a possibility. Right. I don't know what this show is, but
yeah.
I don't remember the internet back in the day, but I guess there were little bits we could sort of see or pictures. Yeah. I don't know. But I had my ears open. And then that tour ended and I got home and my agent called and said, hey, they're putting Avenue Q in Vegas. Would you want to go back? I'm like, yes. Are you sure? I'm like, yes. Because this is the one I was interested in. So I auditioned in LA and I wasn't a puppeteer, but I had absorbed so much over the years.
Right.
I mean, as an adult, still watching these videos.
Just from all the observation.
Oh, yeah, all this. And I just could I was familiar with that language, if you will. Auditioned, they were like, that was great. And I went to New York and auditioned. They were like, that was great. Send him to puppet school. So I went to puppet school, which is
Send him to puppet school.
Yeah, it was like a week in L.A. with this guy, Peter Lintz, who is...
oh, I know. Yeah. My
huge.
sister interviewed him for a magazine in Bedford.
Oh, really? In New York.
He's great.
Yeah, Peter's great. And he's this huge puppeteer. I was familiar with his work. I had a little girl at the time, Ruby, my oldest, who's now 21, so this was a long time ago. And went to puppet school, and I made a puppet. I was like, I'm going to make a puppet. So I got a book called The Foam Book, and just made a puppet, and I brought it, and I said, hey, would this work for auditions? She's like, for puppet school? I was like, yeah.
Wait, so this is because you didn't have your own puppet, you just decided to make one.
I'm like, I'm going to make a puppet, yeah, because I'm like, I'm going to get this job. I'm going to come out of this with a skill, and this is my change.
Yeah,
this is a...
I don't want to totally interrupt your story, but there's not a lot of puppeteers I know that make their own puppets. I mean, we got Kevin Clash, we got Russ Walco, but at least the puppeteers I met out here in LA, it's pretty uncommon, right?
I don't know how uncommon. Like my friend Artie, Artie Esposito? He makes puppets. Oh,
Yeah.
no, the dogs are in the yard.
Yeah.
So he makes puppets.
But that must be great for you if you make it because it's going to fit your hand and you can customize it exactly like you want.
I don't know if I'm that, adept at, but
So anyway, you get the phone book.
I get the phone book. They show you how to make a puppet. I make a puppet. It's wonky. Its head is way too big. Its mouth is way too big, but the eyes are focused.
Yeah.
And it'll do the trick.
Right?
And
Got to be
I
a
also
little bit cross-eyed to make it work, right?
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
And I knew I was going in for the Nikki Trekkie part. So Nikki and Trekkie are both live hand puppets. So you've got one hand in the head, and then you got one hand in this hand,
Right.
and then you have someone else.
You need an assist,
Yeah,
right?
who's doing the other hand, or sometimes they're doing both hands, whatever.
Right.
So I made this puppet with a shirt cut out the sleeve, sort of a hole at the base of the sleeve, so I could stick my hand in there and do,
Right.
The thing. And I did the thing. And after puppet school, my friend Trey, who was on who was Mark and Rent after I became Roger,
Right.
he joined the Full Monty tour.
Oh.
And he may have played the Christiantopoulos. Who did he play? I don't remember. Kind of the doofy guy, right?
Oh,
Was that
okay.
who he played? Who
I
runs
think
into the
so.
wall?
I think
Malcolm, I
so.
think his name is. Malcolm and Ethan. I don't know. Maybe it's Ethan. Anyway, he played that role on the tour, and then he was also in puppet school with me. And he was friends with Wilson Cruz, and he was staying with Wilson because he lived in New York, but we had puppet school out here, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, we remember we went to Wilson's house and recorded the audition. We would record each other, give each other notes, and then flip,
Yeah.
record each other, give it, and
Yeah.
and I remember Wilson going, "Oh, somebody really wants a job, huh?" And I was like, "No, let's do it over and over and over again."
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
I got the call. I thought I was going to Vegas,
Yeah.
but they were like, "Nah, Rick Lyon is going to go to Vegas," though he didn't quite know that yet. And you're going to New York. So I told my friend Leo. I was hanging out with my friend Leo. Again, Leo Denal from the
Right.
Monty tour with the Fab Puppet. Oh, it's so convoluted. And he called Johnny Tartaglia. Johnny Tartaglia called Rick. And Rick was like, "What? Oh, he is? I didn't know about that." Well, anyway, Rick ended up going to Vegas. And I ended up going to New York and doing Avenue Q on and off for about 3 years.
Wow.
Living in New York. And from there, in the show, you have these people called puppet wranglers. And these puppet wranglers work on Sesame Street, and they fix the puppets. They dress the puppets. They go and they do their hair. So we had a puppet wrangler who would, work at Sesame Street all day and then come and do the shows at night and
Right.
on the weekends.
Right.
And I would just hit them up for info.
Yeah.
How do you do this? What do you need to do this?
Right.
How does this work? What do you do this? I was also friends at the time with this guy named Jared Boucher, who's this prolific puppet builder on the Gold Coast in Australia. He would come out and he just built some of those beautiful puppets with like hot glue, because I don't think you're allowed to have all the barge and stinky glues that we have here.
Right.
That'll kill you. But, and he would give me some pointers, and he would build puppets for me. And so I would have some puppets that he built, and I get to look at them and figure out how they worked and stuff. So from then I just started doing, looking online and getting patterns from, projectpuppet.com or what
And did
have you.
anybody ever invite you on the set? I remember once Victor let me go on the set of Crank Yankers and actually see how it all works. Did you get to go
I
on the
went to
set at all?
Sesame Street
Okay.
with Jen Barnhart, who was my partner. She was
Yeah.
Rick's partner originally in the show.
Yeah.
And
Was that really eye-opening?
no, I mean, I'd seen, like Muppets and Men. I've seen all the behind. I knew how it worked. I'd never
I was
seen it
going
in
to bring
person.
that was a great book back then.
Yeah, really
And there was
cool
the
book.
video too. I'm trying to remember what it was called, but there was some
The Art of the
behind the
Muppets
scenes
or something. Yeah, something like that. I don't know. And I had all those big like coffee table books, like the big white one with Jim Henson and
Kermit popping out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I had all, and the Dark Crystal ones had all that stuff. I
all
think
the
I still,
Brian
I think they're
Froud,
right
yeah.
all over there. Yep. The Art of the Dark Crystal. Yeah. And then Johnny Tartaglia had his own show called Johnny and the Sprites. So I went on set there, got to see some stuff, some like remote control flying sprites. That was pretty cool.
Right.
Yeah, and so then I moved back to LA, and I was just like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to do musical theater anymore. And I said that after Rent. I'm like, ugh, musical theater. Bleh.
Right.
Just being a jerk, but I love it.
And here we are.
And here we are. I'm in my garage where I make puppets. And I just finished building some puppets for these guys. There's this guy named Good Boy Noah on TikTok and Instagram and stuff.
Okay.
He does these cooking videos where he's like, hey, yo, cheetah. And this cheetah puppet was, yo, what up?
I think
wanna
I've
learn."
seen that,
He's
yeah.
hilarious. He's got like 2 million followers on TikTok, and the puppetry is, it's kind of janky, but whatever. I like that. The puppet they built their own puppet, but they're like, oh, this is hard. So they reached out to Russ, and Russ is like, well, I'm doing a movie. Call my friend Christian. So Russ hooked me up. And I just finished building 5 puppets for them, and they just shot a little pilot for their YouTube show they're doing, the kids.
Wow.
YouTube kids show called Zoo Town.
Let's check that out. All right. So the main crux of this podcast
Yeah.
is how people use the creative part of their brain in their everyday life, thinking outside the box. So let's go back. You've said a little bit about your parents. What creative attributes do you think that you got from your mom and your dad? Do you see anything in yourself about your creative life that you're like, oh, that's definitely from my dad?
I don't know. I didn't spend a lot of time with my dad growing up, but I'd go see him in shows, and I just was like, oh, I want to do what he's doing. I also, he used to work at restaurants too, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to be a waiter. So I don't know. That wasn't a very creative thing.
But
for
both
me.
parents were performers.
Yeah, well, my mom was a director, so she just put me up in there. I don't know, maybe just like I guess the show must go on kind of attitude, you know, like you just do it, just get it done, make it happen. You know, if I've got 24 hours to do something, if I say I can do it, I can do it. You know, when they say you can finish something in a certain amount of time, or you no matter how much time you have, you'll get it done. You know what I mean?
The show must go on.
Yeah, like exactly. So if I only have 20, yeah. You know,
I mean,
does
it
that make
sounds
sense?
like your dad was a performer. So maybe the performing from him, and then your mom was a director. She was a little bit more behind the scenes. So that to me seems like maybe the puppet maker aspect from her, and then performing.
I never
from your
really
dad.
thought about
and
it.
not only like the DNA of who your parents are, but the environment. You grew up in a performing environment.
Yeah, you know, like I'm not a huge, like I don't know all of the lyrics to Sondheim stuff. I'm not a big Sondheim fan, you know. I appreciate his art, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't really sit with me like some other stuff.
It just doesn't speak to you the same.
Right. So I'm not a huge like, oh, everything musical theater is so amazing. I'm like, I got to see the show. I don't have to see every show. I don't have a dream role. It just was something I lived in.
Kind of fell
like I
into
said,
it.
working
Grew
if my
up in
dad worked at a garage, I'd be wearing coveralls and covered in grease, you know?
Right.
And be at home like a pig in mud. Oink.
Let's think about the creative part of your brain in everyday life. So you know that I'm a drummer, and I might do a drum solo, and they might say, take a solo. I have to make it up off the top of my head without planning anything out, and it's got to make sense. So has there ever been a time in your life where it wasn't like a performance or anything, but you had something that needed to be resolved, and you had to use that part of your brain to solve it?
No, I can't. I don't know if I can think of an example. I mean, this is not the answer to your question, but I'm going to say this story anyway. And this is not a very useful skill, but it can be kind of dumb and silly. I make up dumb songs off the top of my head all the time, you know, about anything that like goes walking backwards. She's got her Crocs on, won't leave us alone. That was a bad example, but you know, that kind of a thing. So I was on tour with the show, the Full Monty. We're in Georgia. Our plane is about to land, but it has to take off again because there's a plane in the way because they got to get this heart out to a patient or something like that. So we're all, I wasn't mad. I was like, well, whatever. So we're in the airport, and a lot of people are like, we're going to need our vouchers because, you know, we missed our flight, so we got to get another flight. And I'm like, all right. So I had this little guitar, and everybody's so angry in this line, and I was just like, there's a good opportunity. And I pulled out the guitar and I go, we almost landed, then we took off again, you know, on the guitar. And everybody's like, what the? And then everybody's mood just changed, you know? So I don't know. I don't know if that was going to answer your question. But it just
I think using humor.
Humor, yeah. And it wasn't the best song in the world, but it was catchy. And people were like, oh, all right. And then everybody in line, most everybody started singing it. And they were happy. And they weren't going like, we want our damn vouchers. They're like, hey, can we get a voucher for the song? You know?
I think you're all collectively losing your minds.
Yes.
In a fun way.
Yes, I think so.
Well, you kind of answered my next question, but do you think that creativity can help people suffering with depression and anxiety? So you already took a tense moment of anger, but do you think it's a good escape for people sometimes that are going through bad stuff? Like, have you ever had a bad day and you get on stage and you just forget about all that for 2 hours?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. How many ways can I say yes? Affirmative.
Here's some of the shows that you're on. Kidding, the Jim Carrey one, Mr. Clown, Avenue Q. I read about Puppet Town, that one they used to do at Meltdown Comics. Missed that place. It was so great.
Yeah, it was really great. And those girls, the Rachel and Alex, have gone on to write some really great shows. They worked on The Helpsters and all that stuff. So it was really helpful.
And then also the Ira and Miriam one you talked about, America's Got Talent.
Yeah, we were on twice.
So with all those in mind, which one of those shows offered you the most creative freedom to improvise? Because that's one thing I loved about working with you. Once we got the show down, we just started making stuff up and making it better. So what was the show where maybe the director or the showrunner was like, go for it, let's just try something?
Well, it was America's Got Talent, you know. So I made this puppet show with these people, this website, YouTube channel thing called Yum Yum F, right? Here comes another long monologue, so you might as well sit back.
I'll put some strings in the background.
Please.
Okay.
Please. And this was it was an Asian-centric group of folks. So I was friends with this guy. I mean, I'm sure we can still be friends. We haven't hung out in a long time. But Sung Kang, he's an actor. He's Han in the Fast and Furious movies. And he
cool.
was connected with this, and we just reconnected. I'd been out on the road, and we reconnected. He's like, "Well, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm doing puppets." And he's like, "Well, I'm working on this thing, and we need to come up with 120 hours of material. You want to make a puppet show?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Whoa, 120.
Yeah. So you know my big walk around Cecil that I had that I don't have anymore?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Ugh, some guy ruined it. We won't go into that. But we were going to do a show with that, but then Sung got a movie, so he passed me on to his friend Anson Ho. And Anson, I had another idea about with smaller puppets, like all these puppets living together in an apartment building. And most of the characters, I believe, were Asian. Everybody in the crew was Asian. It was awesome, except I was playing Mr. Fu, the lead character, who was like and I was doing this accent, and I don't know how I got away with it, but they were like in on the joke, and they were like, "No, we love it." I'm like, "Are you sure this isn't offensive?" I'm like, no, we really love it.
Right.
But it's kind of out there, and you would never fly today. But
right.
We all just were having a great time together.
Yeah.
And nobody's really being made fun of, but white guy should not have been doing that.
So you had a lot of creative input.
Somebody else wrote it, but it was my show, it was my idea, and me and Anson put it together, and then all these other folks. So I had all these puppets laying around. I had done the directing of the puppetry of a performance of Avenue Q out here in, Fullerton, and they knew this woman who was a casting director for America's Got Talent, and she was looking for a puppet act, and through those folks, she got to me. There was a woman in London who, in Britain's Got Talent, had a puppet named Patsy May. Her name was Laura Bacon, lovely young lady. It worked with Victor on Dark Crystal in England.
Oh, wow.
He was doing that. And she had this puppet who was like, hey, kind of sassy, and they wanted to do an American kind of version of that. So I gave them a couple ideas, and I came up with this character named Ira, this little nerdy dude who sings like me, this big, rock kind of voice, right? So, but he's kind of meek. He's like, oh, hey, Ma. And he's a big mama's boy, and his mom's like, oh, Ira, you're so great. You got to go out there and sing, and you're in love with Mel B. And so Ira was in love with Mel B. So I pitched this to them. They loved the idea. I got my friend Howie involved. Howie, who was in Avenue Q with me, Howie Michael Smith. He's amazing. He introduced me to my wife. I love him very much. And he and I, by far, this was like the most fun I've ever had in my life. Crane Gangers is a close second. Working with puppets, other things have been great, like living with Coco every day, butt wiggling, backward walking kiddo. So we got to do 4 episodes, but then you do all this stuff in between. Now, all these other contestants are real people, and they're, there's a guy who walks a tightrope, right? And he's got problems at home. He and his wife aren't getting along. So they really ask them to really lean into it. Like there was this one guy who was a comedian, and his girlfriend was kind of like, wait, when are you coming home? Kind of thing. And they were really pushing this whole thing like she's a nag. So really pushing, but she wasn't. So he'd be like, hey, honey, hey, guess what? I'm going to the next round. Great. And they're like, no, stop. Do it again. But she's like, pause. She's like, we'll put the sound effect in there, right? And make her seem like she's really bugging you. But we didn't have to do that. We came up with our own story.
Yeah.
We made it up, and then we just riffed off it. And Howie is so great and so funny and so sweet. We just laughed our butts off constantly. And the crew loved filming it because it wasn't like, well, my mom lost her arms in a farming accident, and we've got to win the $1 million so we can buy her plastic arms. It wasn't, and they didn't have to, it wasn't like this, like, all right, really lean into the no arm thing. They're a 5-year-old kid in this, family chorus, whatever you are. I just made that story up completely. There was no lady who lost her arms in a farming accident. There may be some lady out there who lost her arms in a farming accident, but I don't know of it, and I'm not. It's all fictitious.
I'll add a disclaimer.
Thank you very much.
All right.
The following moments may contain explicit language.
So yeah, we just got to improvise and
Totally be
it
natural.
was so cool. And we were unlike any other act. You know, we didn't win, but we did, do 4 episodes. We did Radio City live twice.
Yeah.
That was amazing. And we just had so much fun, and it didn't matter. And also Howie and I were like, everybody would walk out the stage door and be, oh my God, you were great on the tie wire. And we walk out with our suitcase and nobody noticed us. And that was kind of a bummer because we thought we were big Broadway stars, but we weren't. We were just carrying puppets in a suitcase. One person did go, hey, were you Ira? I'm like, yeah. Hi, John. Thanks. But then after that, I went to, Italy with Ira. That was great for another show like America's Got Talent. But that show by far was the most fun. Like the producer would come in with an idea and then we would just riff on it and just had the best
most
time.
freedom, just take it as far.
The most freedom. And that is ultimately what I would like to do, I think, is have some kind of wacky, more adult leaning, not nasty and blue, but you know what I mean? Like, puppets for like a puppet, like why like Bob's Burgers, right? Bob's Burgers.
Oh my God, such a good show.
It could be puppets or a puppet, a version of a show like Bob's Burgers. It's funny. It's a little, irreverent, if that's the right
They
word.
could even do a puppet version of that.
Well, they did one episode, like season 5 or something, where they did all these different kinds of animation. And there was a stop animation version. So like the whole episode,
I have to look that up.
Like 10 or 20 different artists, doing a scene, and they put it all together. It's really neat.
I remember seeing Jess McKay be part of. They were pitching Adventure Time as a puppet show. Oh, and my wife and I actually got to see it. And it was amazing, but it never happened. But it was so cool to see it transferred.
Did Jess bring you into this pitch, or?
Oh, he just told me at that time we were working together. And he invited me to go to the show, and I was like, so cool.
All right, awesome.
One thing we have in common out of many is we are big Prince fans.
Oh, God, yeah.
You've got to pick one. What's your favorite Prince song? Today I'm going to go with Hot Thing.
Oh, when did Hot Thing come out?
Oh, Sign of the Times. A long time ago, 80s.
Oh, okay.
But Prince is so prolific.
Oh, yeah. I kind of lost Prince a little after Diamonds and Pearls, I think, and I didn't really get into Sign of the Times, but there are songs on there that I love.
But let's be honest, the guy is so prolific.
Oh, my God.
You could say I like 100 songs, but not the rest of them. Yeah. And there's hundreds more.
Hundreds.
Yeah, and Sign of the Times actually was originally called Crystal Ball. It was a triple album, and they made him condense it down to
Warner
2
Brothers.
discs.
I tell you.
So what would be one of your favorite Prince songs?
All right. Well, one that I used to love to sing karaoke. I don't know if I can do it anymore. The Beautiful Ones.
Oh, yeah.
I love The Beautiful Ones. But then,
you got to go see Maya Rudolph's band too, right? I have not seen them.
Yeah.
How was that?
It was amazing. So I've seen them twice.
Wow.
I saw them once. I don't know where it was, but it was in a smaller venue. Then we just saw them at the Palladium. And, oh my God, they were so great. And at the end, do you know who they brought out?
No.
Lisa and Wendy, dude.
What?
Lisa and Wendy came out.
For real?
For real, Lisa and Wendy. Dang. It was amazing. I think they did Purple Rain, right? I think. And, where they kick into the guitar solo, she hits that pedal and blew our scalps off. It was so loud. It was searing. It was beautiful. It was amazing.
So everybody knows they were in Prince and the Revolution, that band. Yeah, but they went on to be great producers, great solo albums. Like they still make amazing music.
Worked on television and movies, doing music directing or
absolutely
whatever. Incredible. I think also they're a couple, right? Right. So
maybe
I think so. Yeah. Or they were, but they still work together. It's just beautiful. I love it. And I guess they felt kind of shafted, when he was like, all right, Power Generation's my new band. And they're like, what? But
I can understand, though. I mean, a lot of artists, they just want to try different things. I mean, look at Bruce Springsteen, had that other band for a while.
Oh, he did?
I love the Police, but Sting has done a lot of great stuff by himself.
Well, they hated each other, didn't they? Come on, they did, didn't they? I think they did.
So it sounds like you got to see Prince in concert. You're going to say
4 times. I also love the song "Got a Broken Heart Again." You know that one? I love that.
I don't know that one.
Yeah, this is from Dirty Minds. I love all those early records. I love all those
I
early
haven't
records.
listened to those. I remember the more racy ones like Sister.
Yeah, oh yeah. Head.
Yeah.
Yeah. Up, down.
Do you get enough?
Yeah. Well,
So
that's
tell me, because I'm such a big fan, I only saw him once. My wife and I saw him in Buffalo, and there was one part of the concert where he sat at the piano for like 5 minutes and did maybe 30 seconds
of all his hits.
tons.
When
and
was this?
we were like, those are all number one songs.
Yeah.
And he killed it on every instrument. He just went around, played a little drums, played a little bass, trying to think.
In the 2000s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like 2013 or something, maybe, right?
Somewhere around there. Yeah. No, we
Yeah.
moved here in 2013, so it must have been like around 2010. But then the dude had so much energy. I think he was one of those people they call the short sleeper that didn't sleep much. He would play like a huge show at an arena and then find a club.
Yeah,
And go
exactly.
play there.
Oh, man, if only.
So I'm just getting overexcited. So I want to know the 4 times you saw him.
My first concert ever was the Purple Rain Tour in Hartford, Connecticut. And I was like 15 years old, and I went with my 14-year-old brother. And it was amazing. It was amazing. I mean, Purple Rain. We were into him like around 1999. We were getting into that record.
Right.
And then the movie came out, and we were like, oh, we loved it, and we loved the soundtrack. And so my mom was like, okay, you can go to the concert. So she dropped us off, and she and my other brother went.
And did you guys dress up in the frilly outfits?
I wore a fedora with little lace around it, and I get up into my seat, which is kind of in the nosebleeds, and there's this girl who I kind of had a crush on. Everybody did. Kimberly, I don't remember her name.
Everybody had a crush on her. That's
She
what
was
you're
just
saying.
so cool
Yeah.
on this girl. And she was like, oh, hey, Christian, standing right in front of me. I'm like, oh, hi. Anyway, the show ends, the lights come up, and everybody leaves. And my brother's like, let's go down on the floor. I'm like, really? He's like, yep, we go down on the floor.
Yeah.
And they come out and they go, America, America.
I love that version.
And I was like from here to 20 feet away, looking up at him, chewing gum with his band. The lights are, it was amazing. Then I saw him again in like 1989, 90.
Oh, is that Love Sexy?
Yes, I was dating this older woman, Dana, and we went together.
Such a good
awesome.
album. And the tour.
It was
I've
awesome.
heard bootlegs of the live shows.
It was great. There was this big white car. I think I remember. I don't know. We also saw that at Hartford, and then I didn't see him again until I was working at a restaurant on the Sunset Strip. In the Mondrian, and I was working a breakfast show, and I guess these two guys who were sitting one of my tables were like, "Oh yeah, Prince." I'm like, "I love Prince," and then like, we just saw him. He's got a residency at the Forum where he did like.
Oh, remember that he kind of saved
a
the
month.
Forum.
Did yes,
they weren't
right.
doing well, so he just did a ton of shows.
And I was like, oh man, I sure would love to go see that. Tickets probably crazy, right? And they're like, no, $25. I'm like, no.
What?
And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, probably sold out. No, just go. So I said, Camille, my current and final wife. I've only had 2. She's amazing. But I'm like, babe, we're going to go to the Forum tonight. These guys say we can get tickets. She's like, okay. Went down, spent $50, got 2 tickets. Like we were up, not on the
Unbelievable.
floor, but like 6 rows up on the side there. And he was incredible. Nicole Scherzinger, before we all knew she was a trumper, she was his guest because he would have a guest every night,
Yeah.
and she was amazing. I got to work with her too on a puppet thing. Yeah, she was amazing. He was amazing. Camille was like, I never knew how amazing he was. He's so funny. And he sat down at the piano and he's like, man, I got so many hits, and he was.
Well, you brought up a great thing. He was a hilarious dude.
Hilarious
he would,
dude.
Prank call Jay Leno.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, funny dude.
Yeah.
Oh, so I have a story. I was in that Take It Easy show with this girl, Lisa Braverman, and she loved Prince too, so we had that in common. And she told me a story about how somehow she went and saw him at a little club, somehow got into hanging out with him in this little club. And he was like, hey, saying something to her, like, she was cute. And he was like, maybe kind of flirting with her, fooling around with her, knowing that she's just like, oh my God, Prince. And he said some kind of thing like, where do you live? It's like, she said, I don't know the exact story, but he made some kind of joke. Like she said, I live with my mom. And he's like, oh, yeah, I live with your mama or something like that, So just being there's a flirty dirty little ding dong. Anyway, funny guy. And then I went to go visit my brother. My brother was living in Belgium for a little bit, and we went to go visit him for like a week and a half. And it was in the summer. My birthday's in the summer. So I got you some birthday presents, and took us to see him, Prince, in Ghent, which is this old Belgian town. And there's like this college campus that looks like a castle.
Yeah.
And there's this big, huge, open courtyard in the middle of, this big block, I guess. And there was a stage, and there he was, and he was amazeballs.
He's always good.
Yeah, but at this point, so 19 Purple Rain and Love Sexy, he's jumping around and on the stacks and landed in splits, 10 feet
with
down on the stage.
Heels on.
Exactly, which I think is part of his demise, right?
Right, and that's partly why I ended up on
Painkillers,
the
exactly. And then, doctors, I guess were like,
supposed to get a hip replacement. I mean, I remember when Arsenio let him do the whole show. Did you watch that?
No.
So we were big fans of the Arsenio show, and when he had Prince on, they didn't even talk.
They were just like, all right.
You just let him in, and that was the one where he had like the golden gun microphone, and he had like the chains.
Oh, right.
But there was this one part where he was playing the grand piano, and then he'd get up. I can't remember exactly how it happened, but they were supposed to open up the grand piano and all the balloons came out, but then the piano went back down on his hand. And
on
just
Prince's
the look
hand?
on his face.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Incredible.
Oh, wow. I'll look that up online.
All right, so I got a Prince quote for you. I always ask people to respond to quotes. So one time he said, "Our consciousness is programmed. We see things a certain way from a young age. We're programmed to keep doing them that way. Then you have to spend adulthood learning how to overcome it, to read out the programs, to create. I want to tell people to create. Just start by creating your day, then create your life." What do you think of that?
Yeah, right. That's great. That's really great. It's true. We do grow up believing these certain things, right? Like, just the way your parents interact with something, not necessarily their opinions, but you kind of say, oh, that's how I should see that. That's how I see that. Like yelling at the TV if you're into sports, and then you start yelling at the TV, right?
I think as you get older, like a lot of people say, you finally figure out who you really are.
Yeah. Well,
what were you doing for the rest?
Well, I still don't know. I think I'm still going to have to figure that out. I was never into therapy. My mother was never into therapy. And Camille, if I wanted to stay together, I had to be cool with therapy. But it changed me a little bit, Also, Adderall changed me. I highly recommend it. See your doctor first, because I have a lot less outbursts. But, I think about things before I say them, or I think about a situation in a different way. Yeah. Partly because of the Adderall, also because of, the therapy and looking in more closely into my life, and how I see things and how I relate to people.
Yeah. And I think also what he's saying about creating, my wife and I just bought this house out in the desert, and it's been like a collaboration, decorating the house, making it all work. It's kind of cool that we're creating this environment together.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it can be really exciting. And I told her, because, I do a lot more artistic things than she does. I was like, we were making maybe our greatest piece of art together ever. Yeah. It is fun when you go on those like little journeys, and I think you're using the same part of your brain.
So I'm spending a lot of time in the garage here, like making puppets or making whatever, fixing Coco's toys.
Yeah.
Don't tell Coco. Is this going to air after Christmas or before Christmas?
I won't tell her, or she can listen to it.
Don't tell Coco.
Okay.
But she watches me. She comes and she sits on my lap. I'm like, all right, I kind of need to. All right, and she's grabbing my markers and my paper, and she's grabbing foam and what?
Eggs
and all the Easter eggs. Oh my gosh! But she comes in and she just tears it all apart and makes stuff. And I'm like, I love this. So Camille and I got this idea that what we're going to do is there's a little area, there's a dining table, and then there's an area where all her toys are. Right now, the dining table is covered in paper and glue and tape. She's really big into Scotch tape.
It's her studio.
Yeah, we're making her a little studio. We're going to move a table over there.
So cool.
We got a 3D pen for her. We got a hot glue gun for her. She's old enough for that stuff. I got
Are you asking me or telling me?
Kind of both. But she's just, she loves, watching and zoning out to YouTube Kids, but if she's...
No, I mean, I just saw her do it. She is so naturally creative. She's not even aware of it.
No, I know. It just it's
And
oozing out of
we
her.
got to make sure she never loses that.
Oh yeah, we're building this thing, and all her friends come over. They don't really play. They play a little bit with dolls and stuff, but mostly they sit at the table and they make art and a mess.
That's so cool,
It's
especially
amazing.
with kids on devices all the time.
Yep. Yes, absolutely. She watches the TV. She has an iPad, but we try to monitor that. But that she can do that for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. And we all do it. Like I do it with her. Camille, my wife, does it. My mother-in-law lives above where we are right now in my garage, so she has a studio apartment up there, and she does it with her. And
Well, that's great. That's what we were talking about later, like a little creative break from reality.
Yeah.
You guys are all doing that.
Yeah.
Before we go, what would you like to promote? I know, what was your friend's show that you just worked on? Isn't it about a towel or a blanket?
No. Yeah. So there's these friends of mine, but they weren't friends until until they hired me to work on the show with them. But these people, this woman named Lauren Pomerantz, I love her dearly. She's hilarious and so smart. And she, when she was a kid, I had a blanket, like a security blanket, right? I think hers was named Whoopi.
Yeah, just like the Mr. Mom movie.
Yes.
Michael
yeah.
Keaton.
Oh, is it Whoopi? Right.
Yeah,
my Whoopi, not my
Have to
Whoopi.
throw it in the fire at the end.
Yeah. Oh, he did do that, the kid, didn't he? Well, she loved this thing, and her friend had a blanket named Fati. So she, the Ellen show was over. She's not working anymore. She's like, I want to do my own thing. What am I going to do? And
Right.
she and her wife have these two kids, Freddie and Emma, who are twins. She wanted to do something for my kids, I guess. So she and her friend Jason Blackman, also from the Ellen show, who he writes songs, and he's a writer and he's a funny guy, and they collaborated and came up with this idea. They had puppets made by Swazzle, these two blanket
I
puppets.
love Swazzle.
Yeah, a big older, they're amazing. I'm doing a little shoot with them this week.
Yeah, I think didn't they make Victor's my favorite character is
It's Lucas, yeah, right.
disturbing
My
character.
weeble wobble, yeah. Yeah.
All right, so you're also going to do some work with Swazzle?
Well, we're working on some music video and with Artie, my friend Artie too. But so they had puppets made for Swazzle, and then they were hiring people. And Nee knows Jason, was like, "Oh, you got to get Christian. He sings and he's a puppeteer. You'd love him." And so it's me and my friend Nicolette. You know Nicolette Santino?
Oh yeah. I saw her in Puppet Up, right?
Oh yeah. She's
and
hilarious.
she got to do the Coldplay band.
She's touring on Coldplay. She's touring with Coldplay. Also, that woman I was speaking about earlier, Laura Bacon, was working with her a little bit. And her guy, Drew Massey, who's an amazing puppeteer as well and sweet guy.
Oh, and I didn't want to diverge too much, but I love Barbarian and the Troll.
Oh, so good.
My
I
God.
bought it.
Nobody's,
I bought it.
Can you buy a physical copy now?
No, I bought it on, Apple.
I got to tell everybody, it is one of the best puppet shows
so great.
I have ever seen in my life.
It's so great. Yeah, Drew is hilarious. And he
both of those
him
guys.
and Mike Mitchell, who directed Kung Fu Panda 4 and stuff. He's a nice guy.
I think it's a crime that people don't know about that show. I tell all
It's
800
so great.
of my students, you've got to watch the show.
Russ built so many of those
The
puppets.
skeleton.
The skeleton, yes, hilarious. It's hilarious. The dragon, it's so great. It's really all the performances. Peggy,
The songs are good.
The songs
which is
are
rare. I
great.
see so many puppet shows that are cool, but I'm like, please don't break it in song.
like he's a troll who lives under a bridge, and like one of his songs, like I got 100 problems and a bridge ain't one or something because the bridge burned down or something. So funny, so creative, so amazing, and couldn't happen to some nicer people. I love them so much.
Agreed.
Yeah.
All right, so we're all over the place. So what else do you want to? How about your website?
So Whoopi and Fati. So go to Whoopi and Fati on YouTube Kids if you have kids. We
How
teach
do you
them the
spell it,
basics.
just so everybody knows?
Whoopi is Wooby and then N. You know that little N, what do you call that thing? I don't know. And then Fati, Fotty. I play Fati, who's like the bigger, older green blanket. Who kind of teaches Whoopi, the younger, smaller, newer blanket, the way of life. Hey, Whoopi, and they're best buddies, and so we're doing that. And that's really, really fun and sweet, and I love it. And Coco's had a couple of she's appeared in a couple of the videos.
That's what I thought. Yeah, I
One
remember.
where she was really little. It was really cute.
Okay, what is Bandersonian?
Oh, well, my name is Christian Anderson, right?
Okay.
And what happens in my head is pandemonium.
Oh,
So
that's a mashup.
Yeah, it's a mashup. But I didn't come up with it. My friend Bill Cody did. That's BYL Cody, Cote, Bill Cody. Old friend. We were in bands together. We've known each other forever and ever and ever. But he made me a mixtape.
Yeah.
And called it Pandersonian with this like brain melting kind of drawing on it. And I just have adopted it as my brand.
They can go to pandasonium.com. You're on Instagram too.
Pandersonium.com. I'm on TikTok.
Yeah, I was going to say my wife has been really enjoying your zombie videos
really?
on TikTok.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I
So
stopped doing it.
Facebook too? I'm just trying to make sure everybody can find it. It's more
Facebook is
Instagram
more-
and TikTok, right?
Yeah, and then I also have a YouTube channel that's dead that I had when we had Ira going. But one of these days, I'm going to be a big YouTube star. So you just better subscribe now and, just get ready for that day when I'm just pumping stuff out on the tubes.
It's coming.
It's coming,
Yeah.
just like this burp. Excuse me.
So if people want to hire you to have puppets built,
Yeah.
to have you perform, the best places to go is your website. That's like
No.
the hub.
No, that was the idea, but I've been so bad at keeping up with it. But there's
Yeah.
some cool pictures. I got to get that going up again. Sure, you can go to the website, or
It's pretty cool. I went there today.
oh, thank you. But it's like stuff that happened, like back in the 70s.
Right, but a lot of the stuff that we talked about, there were some photos. And,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so the most current thing would probably be Instagram, right? That's where I see
or
you mostly.
my email, which is XTIANANDERSON Xgen Anderson. That is at mac.com or pandersonium@gmail.com.
Yeah. So that's the best way to get a hold of you.
Probably the Xgen Anderson one.
I mean, they're going to see a little bit of you on the Mr. Clown PBS show, right?
They won't see me, but they'll see some of my amazing handiwork.
Tell the listeners, because we have a lot of Mr. Clown fans.
So
Who did you play?
Well, I played a lot of Ozzy, kind of
Ozzy the Lion Drummer.
Ozzy the Lion Drummer. Not
pretty
behind
good
the
drummer.
drums, though.
Yeah.
Was that you doing the drumming?
No, I believe that's probably Rick Marotta. That's my guess.
Oh, all right. Rick Marotta.
Because he
That's
did
right.
most of the music, right? I think he and Nee.
Yeah. And he was so great.
And Victor is actually a really
Victor's
good
all over it.
percussionist, so
Oh,
I think
yeah.
some of the live drumming might have been
Oh,
him.
might have been Victor?
Yeah.
He played. I was talking to him and my friend Ben, and we always knew he played. What's that instrument that he plays?
Marimba.
Yes, thank you very much.
He brought it to my school once and
He did?
performed.
It's nuts.
Yeah, he's really good. He does
What?
the two sticks in each hand.
Crazy. I was like, what? I mean, he's an amazing. I call him
I
my
think-
mentor as far as
I think
puppetry is
that's
concerned.
one of the reasons why he's so good at ADR and like crank yankers, because you have to rhythmically just nail it, right?
He is. So I mean, of course he can do it. He can do just about anything.
I remember for my show, Lord Boom Boom Stick, he played the Scottish cat. And he's like, what do you want him to sound like? And I was like, could you do like really close to Billy Connolly? Boom. The next day.
Yeah.
Spot on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's no joke.
Anything else?
I mentioned Adderall.
Do you endorse them?
No, but I should.
Not yet.
Not yet. But I don't take too much of it. Just take the right amount. You know what I mean? But I'm telling you, no crazy outbursts that hurt people's feelings. I take out the garbage. And when it was my job, it's not anymore because my cat died. But
How long has it been under control now?
my outbursts,
Yeah.
a couple of years now. And I do the dishes. I don't leave them sitting there. I take out the garbage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My wife is like, oh my God, she'll endorse Adderall. Really? I used to only take it when like I had a job to do. And my therapist was like, so that's the only important thing to you, not the rest of your life. And I'm like, but ding. So I started taking it every day. And really, it just keeps me focused.
All right, Christian Anderson, this has been great. Let's get together and do this again soon.
Okay, Malcolm, that would be great. I don't know if I have any more stories, though, but sure, I'd love to talk to you. I love doing this. Okay.
We interrupt this program to bring you an important announcement.
You're being recorded.
Say it into here. Tell me the mushroom thing.
Tell me the mushroom thing.
What?
Come over here.
Speaking to the microphone.
Why do you like mushrooms?
I don't know.
Because you're a fun guy.
That's pretty good. You get any other ones?
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Hatch.
Hatch you.
Bless you.
Do you want to hear yourself? Tell them one more and then get out of here.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Egg.
Egg who?
Crack. Crack the egg head. You crack the egg. What? It just
Go
cracked
inside
the
with your
egg.
mom. I love you.
Okay, love you too, but I have to bring all these eggs with me.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, egg kid. Here, could you close the door over? You don't have to close it all the way. Just close it over. Bye.
See you, Coco.
Oh my gosh. All right, bye. Bye. I love you. Bye. Okay, slow backwards walk out the door. Uh-oh.
Dramatic.
Go. Please.
Bye.
Bye. All right. Oh boy. Look at that. And she's wiggling her bum. She's just not.
We have a reoccurring character.
Oh my gosh. Get out of here, you silly kiddo. Oh my gosh. My wife. All right, there she is. That's my wife, Camille. She's amazing.
And the dog.
And the dog. What are you doing coming back here? Get out of here. Bye. I love you. Go.
She'll be back.
Yeah, I know. Coco, my love. What are you doing? She's just a ham. Stinky little kiddo.